Good morning, Midland, Texas. Buddy Webb. I got a video here I want to do called Proof of Premeditation. Once again, here I've wrote up a little outline of basically describing what was going on starting 5 weeks before the murder attempt, the premeditated capital attempted murder, and then on through to the investigation and figuring out showing you the evidence that's showing that this was premeditated, planned in advance. Of course, we already knew triple proof. I wasn't shot with my gun, and I was shot inside my home, so somebody had to come to my home and shoot me. I mean, that's premeditation anyway, right? And but here, let me go over this real quick. 39 days before the murder attempt, on December 20th, 2011, the ex-wife called the police to my home, where they put me in the back of a police car, which already had a bag of marijuana laying in the seat. The threat of being framed was clear when I was told we better not be called back here again for this stuff. This was the reason I didn't call the police when the burglar alarms were going off before I shot by surprise. And so I say, well, okay, police report, because that's what I'm going to back up each one of these. This is the police report from that night. Okay, you can see the date on it, 12/20/11. Here it is, the ex-wife calls, I'm supposedly going crazy. Actually, I'm Mr. Calm is what it was. And here's the two police that showed up, Blake Bush, Trent Sellers, and verbally only. And here's more the defamation of my character, extremely 1096, because I'm saying people are breaking in my home. Of course, now I have 100 videos proving people are breaking in my home. And then on the bottom of this police report, this was after the fact. This was on the night of a shot. An XREF was made on this document, and that's another story. But so I believe it was, my guess is Matt Davis come back in there and did that, and I would suspect he's involved too. Okay, so basically on this night, I was put in the back of a police car that had a bag of marijuana already laying in the seat, and I was told by these two police officers that the threat of being framed was obvious without saying a word. I was told that I better not call the police again to hear for this stuff. Okay, and basically this stuff was repeated breaking my house, which I believe were connected to human trafficking, prostitution, sex trafficking, prostitution ring, etc. Okay. And so interestingly, I was told by my realtor that the previous owner, Mike Lawhon, was incarcerated for drugs prior to his supposed accidental overdose in 2 different towns. I wonder if they framed him. Okay, and then so to back up what I just said, this is the medical examiner's record for Mike Lawhon, the previous homeowner. And he died right before. I come in, I actually bought this home from the widow. My first bid, he was still alive. When I first looked at the house, he was still alive. Okay, and there's acute protoxyphene intoxication. I think it's Darvon, something like that. Okay. And they say he died in Fort Worth. Okay. And that's what the Odessa American said. I've showed this many times on the first death notice posted on the 14th of October 2008. But then the Odessa American revised the death notice and posted a second one on the 18th and changed the location of death to say his residence, which fits what the neighbor, Marilyn DeLuigi, had told me twice, that Mike did die at this house. But the main thing here is just interesting that he died of overdose. And so I've wondered, because of what happened to me, if he wasn't set up, if they didn't create a document trail. And I'm going to get onto that right there. It says, after the police leave, the ex-wife tells me, we're creating a document trail on you. Remember, this is 39 days before I'm ambushed and shot, my phone line's cut. And Danny said that we'll just take your house. Well, I later asked my brother Danny if he said this, and he said no, and he doesn't know anything about the crimes going on here. And I'm still trying to figure out who Danny is, okay? And I'll show you a picture of my brother here. And it truly is just hard to imagine that anybody in my family would try to kill me. And I can't explain what's going on, but I come from a close family. There's me and Danny. Okay, and so the question's asked if they created a document trail on Mike Lawhon, and if they framed him, and then before he was accidentally, killed by overdose in 2 different towns. Okay. When I got home from the grocery store on the day of the murder attempt, I noticed somebody had been inside my home again, which is when I towered the door shut, unknowingly trapping one of the burglars in my guest bathroom. Okay. Evidence has been found showing that, the door was torn on the bottom from the hinges, pry marks on the top inside of the door. I found this after I returned, and you can see even the nurse's notes where I was telling them I had tie wired the door shut, and I was trying to compartmentalize my house. Remember, I had, repeated burglaries, felonies committed here, starting 14 months before this. Called the police, the Texas Rangers, the FBI. That was all before they ambushed and shot me. Okay, and so that's what was going on before I shot. Is I had trapped a burglar, and and that was a possible motive for murder right there. Is that one of their burglar friends got trapped, instead of turning themselves in and going to prison, they decided to murder me. Okay. Okay, and so let's move on. Cell phone mysteriously disappeared. So I put the cordless phone in my front pocket of my shirt. This was something I never do. But burglar alarms were being set off over and over, so I was concerned that something was going on. Okay, and what I want to show you here is on the nurse's notes. Okay, and because I'm trying to back everything up, and over again, my word should be proven as solid as could be, over and over. And some of the things that the nurse recorded me saying. This is 11:27. I crawled out at 10:42. I'm at the ER, and I'm saying there are sirens going off. The alarms kept going off. They were purposely setting off burglar alarms in my attic. Absolutely terrifying what was going on that night before I shot. And I said there was a voice recorder in the closet that was recording what was going on. That was stolen for the longest time, and then I made a point of it on Facebook, and it got handwritten in. They scribbled out, the police did, scribbled out one piece of evidence that they'd found, literally scribbled out one piece of evidence that they had logged, and wrote in voice recorder years later. Talk about a shoddy cover up. Anyway, here we go. This is not about the voice recorder. But the one thing here, Detective Rodriguez has patient necklace, said she's going to give it to his brother. So Rodriguez was in the ER room, and she knew all this, and she's the one that got my stuff. Okay, which is important here in a minute. She got my wallet and all that. Okay, and so the main thing was the burglar alarms were going off over and over. I was going from room to room to secure my perimeters, and when I got to my utility room, boom, I fell to the ground. I didn't know what happened. I jumped right back up, but fell again as my ankle was broken. I screamed help as loud as I could, but it was a deathly silence as they listened to me and waited for me to die. Now, remember, I was shot by surprise, point-blank range, directly at an artery, right from inches away. And the shot come from under that cabinet. It was come from a .45 handgun loaded with a plastic tip pellet-filled bullet. Okay, and that's all the other evidence shows that. When I tried to use my cordless phone, I found out that it was dead. They had stolen my cell phone and cut my phone lines before shooting me. The log file shows that they had also disabled my bedroom security camera. It was terminated at 8:08, and the last picture was of me holding my gun as the home invasion was going on. Okay, and I have a log file showing. This is the log file of the bedroom security camera, and it shows that when the computer started, it automatically started the camera. So at 10:52 a.m. that morning, it started up. And then here at 20:08, okay, so 8:08, y'all cam terminated, okay. And so, and actually the camera started back at 3:16 a.m. I'm in the hospital going into surgery about that time. And what happened was the police come in and manually rebooted my computer, and I believe to stop the camera, and they unknowingly started the camera. So they actually got caught on camera and didn't know it. They were trying to stop the camera, and they started the camera and didn't know it. That's another miracle, I give God all praise and glory for that. And so the reason I crawled out was because I had no other choice. I couldn't call for help. My murder was premeditated, and I'm only alive because of God, as their shot threaded the needle. And then I have the crawl video. Interesting, you see the headlights being turned out on my car while I'm crawling. And I just point this out sometimes. This has been in many videos, played many times. Watch the headlights on my car. Boom, it went off. Did you see that? Okay, and so I went around town checking to see if that would happen with the key fob, and finding similar vehicles. That was a Ford Escape, my company car, and it wouldn't. So it looks like somebody was sitting in my car, and possibly they were waiting for me to die so they could come let the trap burglar out. And it was a very, very cold night, so my guess is they run in the car to run the heater. I knew they already had access to my keys and all that stuff for other other events, crime events, harassment, stalking had gone on. Okay. And when I returned from the hospital 10 days later, now disabled, I found that my home phone had been hooked back up and my cell phone had been planted behind my nightstand. It wasn't there before I was shot. Okay. And here I do the return pic. Okay. And actually, I didn't show you. This is the last pic before they disabled my camera. Okay. And you can see me with my gun. Okay. And it's time stamped at 8:07, and then a minute later is when that camera was terminated, and I believe that's when they were cutting my phone lines. Okay, this is when I just returned from the hospital here. My peer at work, Bobby Douglas, come pick me up at the hospital, and I'd been in the hospital 10 days. That's where they cut the back of my foot off. I didn't even know it, but they had. And so you can see it on the date is February 7th. That's when I returned from the hospital after surviving this premeditated murder attempt. Okay, and here I also found the security camera pictures on my bedroom camera as the police started this camera without knowing it at 3:16 when they rebooted my computer. I said that a minute ago. And that's on the Windows event log. The camera started automatically before login, which is called run as a service. That was another miracle. Okay, and so I have the Windows event log. I'm looking for evidence to figure out what happened. Okay, so this is, I'm an IT guy, whatever, and I go looking and, what caused the camera, because it was terminated, remember, at 8:08. I'm crawling out at 10:42, and then I have these pictures of the police in my home, and the reason is because they rebooted my camera, my computer at 3:15:12, not knowing it would automatically start that camera up. It was called run as a service. And once again, I'm an IT guy. And you can see here, it wasn't automatic. It was user-initiated log-off. The police manually rebooted. Just 16 minutes later, we start seeing the pictures of the secret police, and that's where they're searching drawers and filling up bags. And you're going to see a picture here in a minute where Rosa Rodriguez is leaned over the nightstand where my stolen cell phone had been planted. Okay. And so one of the last pictures we see MPD Detective Rosa Rodriguez leaned over the nightstand where my stolen cell phone had been planted. Looks like her and April Chandler waited for the rest of the police to leave my room before they did this. Leaned over, please. And then you can tell that by the timestamps of the pictures and the number of pictures is what they did is here's Rosa Rodriguez, and I have, that this is not the full set of security pictures, and so that is Rosa Rodriguez. My stolen cell phone was found planted behind the nightstand next to my bed that she is leaned over right there, okay, and right next to her is April Chandler. All the other police are gone out of the room. There's the timestamp, 3:55, and so what they waited for everybody to leave the room, and then they went and planted my previously stolen cell phone that I found when I returned from the hospital. It wasn't there when I was shot. Remember, it's stolen before, along with having my phone lines cut. Okay, and so. And then I also found several statements that she made on the police reports that I believe were done for excuse making. On her narrative on the information report, Rosa said, Buddy said his phone was not charged. She made up this lie as I never said that. And in fact, I rarely use my home phone, so it stayed on the charger all the time. And so Rosa Rodriguez, I'm going to show you this on, here, she wrote this, okay? Buddy said his phone was not charged. Buddy did not say that. She made that lie up, and I believe it was excuse making because she's the one that, was involved or knew who was involved in cutting my home phone line and then stealing my cell phone because, here we got a picture of her leaned over the nightstand where my cell phone was planted, and so this is a bold-faced lie. Buddy said his phone was not charged because, as I said a minute ago, I rarely ever use my home phones. The only reason I had my home phone on me that day is because my cell phone was stolen, okay? And the reason I didn't call the police because I've been threatened, we better not be called back here again for this stuff, Okay, and then another related story is my debit card had been stolen earlier that week. That was part of the terrorism and harassment and stalking that was going on. I now believe this was done harassment and stalking. I looked everywhere for it and finally called the bank and reported it lost stolen. Evidently, they didn't know it was reported. When I got back from the hospital and got my wallet back from the evidence lockup, remember Rosa Rodriguez got my stuff at the ER, I noticed that the missing debit card card had been put back into my wallet. Okay, the stolen card that I had reported as stolen was replaced in my wallet, and the police are the one who took my wallet. CSI Marty Barrett checked it in with the other evidence, and Rosa Rodriguez is the one in the emergency room who got my stuff. Obviously, Rosa Rodriguez was working with the criminals that had been rigging homes to steal from and kill unsuspecting homeowners. She met me at the 7-Eleven when I crawled out, but then claimed she wasn't there. It was April Chandler that said she crawled. It was April Chandler that said she crawled in the front seat of my truck at the 7-Eleven. So both of them lied. Okay, both of these two together. Okay, first off, this is from the evidence log, okay? And it's going to show you here, this is the debit card that was stolen, okay? And so investigation by a police officer, what you can do is you can get a hold of that bank and find that I had reported it lost, stolen just a few days prior to being shot. And then when I returned from the hospital, it's mysteriously back in my wallet, okay? And what does that tell you? It tells you the same people planting my stolen cell phone it was involved in stealing that debit card. Now, I don't believe they were stealing it to use it. They were stealing it for harassment, okay, is what it was doing. Probably trying to maybe force me out of this home because they're trying to steal property. You know, over and over, people have tried to talk me into selling my home over the threat of death, okay? So Tony Barrett is the CSI. He's the one that checked in a stolen debit card that wasn't there when I was shot, okay? So they put it back in there sometimes after Rosa Rodriguez got that debit card. So you can see how that is related, okay? And then the other thing, and I just mentioned that, okay, April Chandler, I found this, okay, this is April Chandler's narrative, okay, and she says that she met me at the 7-Eleven and that she climbed in the front seat of my truck and she was applying pressure to the wound, and it was Rosa Rodriguez, you know. I didn't know at the time Rosa Rodriguez was lifelong friends with my ex-wife. I didn't learn that for 2 years later, you know. I mean, all I knew, it was a detective act. The truth is, I was relieved, excited that the police were finally going to get involved and stop these crimes against me, not knowing that they were involved in the crimes. And of course, that doesn't mean all police are dirty. I'm a supporter of law enforcement, but obviously here in this case, we got some very, very corrupt police. Okay, and here's another thing that April Chandler writes in this narrative, which is basically lies. But he began to explain how he's locking his house up for the night and his 12-gauge shotgun that he leaned over what fell over. Okay, that was more lies, because if you remember on the nurse's note, Buddy said burglar alarms were going off over and over and over again. I didn't say I was locking up for the night. Burglar alarms were going off over and over and over again. You know, April Chandler lied. More of the excuse making is what it was. Okay. And then finally wrapping it up, come to find out in the protective order here, almost 2 years later, and what it's found out is that that Rosa Rodriguez, okay, this detective that's so key to everything here, okay, and this was coming to court question. And basically what happened, we go into court, my attorney notices that Rosa's sitting over there with the ex-wife, all buddies, you know. And so she just asked her, you know, just out of the blue question in court, do y'all know each other? You know, and come to find out, they went to elementary and junior high school. These are like lifelong childhood buddies, you know. And here you're going to see in a minute, the ex-wife is alleged to be involved in the shooting by her former boyfriend. Okay, 8 months after the murder attempt, a guy named Arthur Welch gets a hold of me and on private message here, Arthur Welch, and he says, do you think she had anything to do with the shooting? I dated her for a short time here in Lubbock, and she threatened to have me killed. And I said, well, you know, I think she, and then he replies, he says, well, I think she had a lot to do with it from the things she said. And I said, well, so never trust her. So her boyfriend says that the ex-wife had a lot to do with the shooting. Of course, the ex-wife had taken my life insurance books, okay, just a few weeks before I'm shot. And she was primary beneficiary. And this is when we separated, okay. And these life insurance books showed that I had an accidental death policy, okay, and a supplemental accidental death. And that added 2 times my annual base pay plus $250,000. So altogether, that's around another $500,000 on top of the other benefits. The biggest prize here is this special rigged home. Okay, that's the big prize, you know. But she had taken these books. The ex-wife had taken these books from her. Okay, so let's put this in perspective. If her childhood buddy, Rosa Rodriguez, rules my murder an accident, then that adds $500,000 instead of getting a divorce from a 3-month marriage that's ending under allegations that she's working with the prostitution ring. It's Buddy, Midland, Texas.